Call in all the reporters outside the courtroom. Yes, Curtis. But can you send someone? Roland Royer, the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy. Honorable Julian Defoe, Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy. Mr. Ryan Ansam, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture. and Mr. Kendall Johnson, consultant engineer on the East Coast Road project. We also have with us members of cabinet, the spouse of the Prime Minister and the parliamentary representative for Roseau Central, the Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Melissa Skerritt, as well as the Minister for Education, Honorable Octavia Alfred, and the Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Honorable Lakia Joseph, as well as the Cabinet Secretary and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Public Works. I see we also have with us Mr. Stevenson from the Climate Resilience Project, as well as members of the media. So good morning again, everyone. Welcome to the first in our series of press conferences focused on the many projects ongoing across the country. And we are going to start off this morning with Honorable Roland Royer, the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy, who will speak on the Dominica Emergency Agricultural Livelihoods and Climate Resilience Project. Please welcome Honorable Royer.
Thank you, Press Secretary. Let me acknowledge Honorable Julian Defoe, the Minister of State within the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy, my other colleague, Honorable Lakia Joseph, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Ryan Anslem, Mr. Kendall Johnson, Consultant Engineer at the Ministry of Public Works. Also happy for us to welcome my colleagues, Honorable Minister Skerritt and Honorable Alfred. Also, the Cabinet Secretary and the PS in the Ministry of Public Works, Media, everyone, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to provide remarks at this press conference where we will discuss the progress made so far on the Emergency Agricultural Livelihoods and Climate Resilience Project. The project can be regarded as a transformative initiative that embodies resilience, innovation, and an unyielding commitment to progress. Born from the devastation caused by Hurricane Maria in September 2017, this project stands as a testament to the determination of the government of Dominica to rebuild better, stronger, and more resilient. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes I may sound like a broken record, but I think it is necessary to remind us of the damages and losses we suffered in the agricultural sector due to the passage of Hurricane Maria. Hurricane Maria damaged 80 to 100% of root crops, vegetables, bananas, and plantains, and 90% of tree crops. The total damage and losses to the sector were estimated at 576,800,000. As we're recovering from these losses, the sector faced from Tropical Storm Erica. That's when we were struck by Hurricane Maria. So basically, in September 2017, the sector was at ground zero. Due to this catastrophic impact, the government of Dominica secured a financing package of US $25 million or EC 67.5 million from the World Bank on April 13th, 2018. This ambitious project was designed not just to restore agricultural livelihoods, but also to enhance climate resilience for our farmers and fisherfolk, with a special focus on supporting vulnerable groups. The project has two primary objectives. One, to restore agricultural livelihoods and enhance climate resilience for those affected by Hurricane Maria, and two, to provide an immediate and effective response to eligible emergencies. The project is structured around four main components: the restoration of a productive base for agricultural livelihoods, the restoration of key productive infrastructure and institutional strengthening, project management and coordination, and contingency emergency response. The journey of the Agricultural Livelihoods and Climate Resilience Project has been marked by significant milestones, underpinned by resilience and adaptability. In April 2020, the project activated its first contingency emergency response component, allocating US 3.6 million to strengthen food security and health systems amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. In April 2023, a second response component was activated, directing US 8 million towards addressing food security, which was provided as a loan. These measures highlight the project's ability to adapt to global challenges while remaining focused on its core objectives. As of January 2024, the project has expended 70% of its revised budget of US 36.6 million, which is EC 98.8 million. Achievements under this project are both numerous and impactful. Through the distribution of inputs to 3,714 farmers, over 400 acres of farmland have been restored. Livestock farming has also seen tremendous support, with building material provided for over 120 structures, benefiting a wide range of farmers and supporting the local economy. Further achievements include the completion of 8 major agricultural infrastructure projects, such as the Northeast Agricultural Extension Office, the Salisbury Irrigation System, and a tissue culture hardening facility at 1 mile. Contracts valued at EC 14.1 million have been secured for the rehabilitation of the National Abattoir and the Citrus Certification Facility. Capacity building initiatives have also empowered extension officers with UE certified training and IT support, enhancing service delivery to farmers. During the pandemic, the project provided essential agro inputs, medical supplies, and the retrofitting of isolation facilities. Under the food security contingency response, animal feed was distributed and contracts were secured for greenhouses, hydroponic system, and agro-processing equipment. These efforts have been instrumental in strengthening food security and ensuring the livelihoods of our agricultural stakeholders. Our hardworking staff for the PIU are involved in many more project activities, and the Permanent Secretary will provide the status of these activities shortly. I also want to emphasize that this agricultural livelihoods project is more than a recovery program. It is a blueprint for developing a sustainable agricultural sector, addressing immediate needs and laying the groundwork for long-term resilience paves the way for Dominica's agricultural sector to contribute EC 700 million to GDP by 2030. This is not merely a target, it is a shared vision for a stronger, self-reliant Dominica. In conclusion, the government of Dominica remains steadfast in its commitment to investing in agriculture as a key pillar of the nation's economic development. By prioritizing sustainable agricultural practices, enhancing productivity, and supporting local farmers, the government aims to strengthen food security, create job opportunities, and promote rural development. These investments not only contribute to the resilience of Dominica's agricultural sector in the face of climate change, but also foster long-term economic stability and prosperity for the entire country. Through continued support and innovation, the government ensures that agriculture will remain a vital and thriving part of Dominica's future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for your summary and overview of the project. Later on, we will have the opportunity for some questions, and as you heard from the Minister, the Permanent Secretary will provide even further details of the project in a bit. But before that, we have with us Honorable Julian Defoe. He is the Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture, and we like to call him our Fisheries and Blue and Green Economy Champion, and you will hear why as I invite him to address us.
Okay, good morning. I always wanted to stand here. I usually watch PM all the time. I say I will be up there one day. Yeah, so thank you very much. And I'm just following on from the Honorable, my senior minister, Honorable Royer, on on the what we call the DEALCRP, the Dominica Emergency Agricultural Livelihoods Climate Resilient Project. And so you will hear a lot about agriculture, but I just want to say there is a significant fisheries component. While it is the smaller aspect of the entire project, but it is by no means the least important. It's a very critical and important sector in Dominica for most of us who are from the coastal communities. As you know, along both on the east and west coast, a large number of individuals, over 1,000, depend on fisheries as a livelihood. So the project in itself was mostly geared towards livelihood, but it would be remiss of me not acknowledging significant contribution of other donors and players, because as we know, this entire project came as a result of the devastation of Hurricane Maria. So in this first framework, while this project that we're speaking of today deals with the livelihoods, but there was also other significant contribution. As we know, the fisheries sector was devastated significantly. We lost over 70% of fishers' personal assets, which is boats and engine, and also critical infrastructure at the fish landing sites, such as locker room facilities, and so on. So we post Hurricane Maria, we saw one of our first major assistance, which is we had the complete devastation of the Roseau Fisheries Complex, and we had the entire rehabilitation through our donor partner, the government of Japan, who have completely rehabilitated this building and completed a few years ago. Time goes by very quickly, to a tune of over 10 million US dollars. Also, we had significant contribution by other organizations during post-Maria, such as the Samaritan Purse, which did significant work in fisheries, as many people would be unaware that they targeted mostly the organization. So we have quite a number of fisheries organizations, fisheries cooperatives, as we call them, around the island. And Samaritan Purse assisted these organizations with equipment, tools, and also most rehabilitation, to some aspect, rehabilitation of the existing cooperative buildings, such as covering, roofing, and so on. So this was quite substantial. So I just wanted to mention that. Coming back to the initiatives under the PIU, as I said, the fisheries component in terms of the livelihoods aspect, of course, is lesser than the farming component, because we have much more farmers than fishers, but also it is significant. So the first, I should explain how the assistance program for the fisheries works out, because the dynamics and the mechanisms are somewhat different to the beneficiaries of the agriculture sector. So we had the main assets which most fishers would have is mostly a boat and engine. This is well known. So but a farmer would have a wider variety of different types of cropping systems, and also maybe even people who are in livestock are different than people who grow vegetables and plant bananas. So in fisheries, we have the two main aspects, boat and engine. So the assistance package was designed in a way that fishers who had boats which were deemed which was deemed that was safe enough to be able to navigate with would be given assistance of an engine. And if you did not have a boat with a sufficient engine, then you would opt for boat. So the package made up of an option package. The entitled fisher, as we know through the World Bank project, would have gone through a rigorous process of expression of interest and then selection. So once you are then selected, you choose what sort of package you would want. So we had procured 108 outboard engines, which are 4-stroke engines, 50 horsepower and 100 horsepower, were first in the early stages of the project, because it is a procurement, so it was easier done. So we have 108 beneficiaries who receive either a 50 horsepower 4-stroke engine or 100 horsepower. And I need to emphasize a bit more on the type of engine that they receive, because since in the project we talk about climate resilience, and so we have two types of resilience there. One in terms of saving the climate. Most of the sector, the fishers would actually have what we call 2-stroke outboard engines. As you know, these engines are more harmful to the environment because they burn oil, and the emission gets into the environment and the atmosphere. These engines were replaced with 100% 4-stroke outboard engines, which are much safer for the environment. So this is one of the climate aspect into selecting what type of assistance that we gave. In addition to the emission factor, four-stroke outboards can give you at least 50% reduction in fuel consumption. So there goes by these very same fishers you are helping, you are now improving their efficiency and cutting their cost and allowing them to do much more better business. Anybody with a business, if you can reduce an operational cost, there is a high potential to increase your profit margin. So we have that aspect in the program. The second component of assistance was the boat. So at this moment, the boat was more long-term because it was a more structured program where we had to select boat builders. So we ended up with 5 of our best boat builders on the island, and they went through almost 1 year of training with the assistance of a naval architect from India. And so why these individuals had their basic skill and they were already building boats in the industry, but this naval architect was hired so that they could build on their capacity in terms of the standards, the knowledge of materials, and technical know-how. So it did not really teach them to build a boat, but to enhance what they already knew. And I can tell you today, if you interact with any of these 5 individuals, they are very grateful for the knowledge that was impacted upon them at a tremendous cost. The boat building component, 54 has been built now, would have already been done, but I just want to let the public know it was the construction was kind of curtailed or hindered by the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, because we had to depend on the consultant and naval architect to be traveling back and forth from India, which proved very difficult. But I must say, the light is at the end of the tunnel. Each and every of these 5 individuals are now producing boats, and in total they have to produce about 54 boats. Of course, we try to spread it across the 5 individuals, but in any industry, some individuals have a bit more capacity than others, so some will have more boats to build than others. But all of them at the moment are on the way, and above 50% of the targeted number of boats they are supposed to build. In addition to that, each of these individual 5 boat builders received further capacity enhancement from the project, apart from the training, tools, equipment, and personal investment in their own sheds where they used to build the boat. Of course, after the project has ended, they will continue to build boats for other members of the society. And I should tell you that these individuals' capacity now have even surpassed our typical local type of fishing boats. These individuals, those of us who have, or those of you who can have the extra fund and you want to invest in pleasure crafts, they are quite capable of producing high quality pleasure crafts to meet your needs. So I just wanted to add these additional bits when it comes to highlighting the technical expertise and skills these people have. So this is from the first tranche of the project. The second component of the project, which is called CIRC, again, this came an addition post the COVID-19 pandemic, the contingency emergency response component. Fisheries also is taken care of. And at this time, we moved a bit away from the capacity building of the individuals towards the landing site. So the landing site in fisheries is where fishers operate and where boats operate. This is a very important area. There are many things to consider there. It's not only the people's boat and engine, but the environment in which where the fish is landed. And those of us who care about food safety, and we know fish is food, so we would imagine and expect that the fish that is caught and landed and brought to us is handled in the most hygienic manner. So this component will look at quite a number of fish landing sites, stemming all the way from Bio. We have Biosh, Jubla, and I'm starting from on the west coast. We have Maho, Fokole. We will go south to Scott's Head, and we'll go to the east to San Sauve and also to the Stowe area. The interventions in these areas will be different. Some of them we're looking at improving. And Newton, of course, I cannot forget Newton, my dear friend, Sheki. So we look at various mixed type of enhancements. Some we're looking at slipways. Some are looking at the food safety system, improving the safety by putting, especially an example would be Newtown, and hence to enhance the current structure which is already there, which was invested by the Newtown Fisheries Cooperative to put in a shelter so that the people who are engaged in vending can have a much more comfortable area and also much more convenient for customers. And also various type of engagement will happen in Fokoli. So what we are doing, especially places in Fokoli, not to remove the culture of selling fish, but enhancing the area and enhancing the experience for customers, all in addressing food safety. So these interventions, some of them are underway, and some of them we will see start before the end of January. So some of the projects which are underway, I could say Bioche and Dublin, work is ongoing as we speak on their buildings, enhancing office space and so on. So there's a lot I can say. It's a very exciting project. As I said, it is the smaller component, but by no means the least interesting aspect of the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for your summary. You see how fluent he is in the language of fisheries. So thank you so much, Minister. Welcome, Curtis. Thank you for coming. One of the objectives, and I have to say, of the Honorable Prime Minister is that we would get to hear more from our technical officers on these projects. And in line with this, I now invite Mr. Ryan Anselm, who is the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, to present.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. I first want to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy, Honorable Roland Royer, Honorable Julian Defoe, Minister responsible for Fisheries, special emphasis on blue economy. We call him our blue economy expert. Also want to recognize at the head table Mr. Johnson. Special recognition to other cabinet ministers, Mrs. Melissa Popon-Skerrit, Honorable Alfred, and Lakia, Honorable Lakia. Special recognition to the Cabinet Secretary, my colleague P.S. Lancelot from the Public Works Ministry. Also want to recognize the PIU manager, Kevin Stevenson. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. My role is to give you an update of the project. And as the minister indicated, this project came about due to the devastation of Hurricane Maria. So the government, through a loan from the World Bank, contracted $69.4 million to support restoration of agriculture and fishery sectors, ensuring the alignment with agriculture and fisheries sustainable development strategy and prioritizing food security and climate resilience. So what I will attempt to do is to give you an update of the different components. So I'll start with component A, which is restoration of the cropping systems. And what that means, as the minister indicated, after Hurricane Maria, 70 to 90% of our crops, that include root crops, vegetables, tree crops, were destroyed by Hurricane Maria. And so to restore these crops, we spend approximately $18 million in providing the farmers, and that is significant, $18 million in 5 years, providing the fertilizer, the inputs, and all the necessary agrochemicals, so our farmers could bounce back quickly. And we also provided some much needed planting materials. And significantly, the project targeted 20% of women. And you may ask me why. We recognize that for agriculture to move forward, we need women and youth involvement. And so we deliberately targeted 20%. women. And through that initiative, 70% of our entire acreage we recovered and we're on the market selling our root crops and our vegetables. I will now go on to component A2, which is restoration of the fisheries subsector, recognizing the critical role of the fisheries subsector in Dominica, not only for our fisher folks, but for our population. You would recognize that after a massive hurricane, that your population would need protein. And sometimes when we speak about protein, people speak about pork, poultry. But fish is an essential component of our protein source. And so the project, through the initiative led by the fisheries, we spent $4.6 million that was allocated to quickly restore the livelihoods of the fisher folks. And through that, 106 fisher folks were supported with engine valued at $1.9 million. And you heard the minister, it's not the ordinary engine. I believe it was using 4-stroke. And so that itself building resilience or resilient component. Fisher folks also received canoes valued at approximately $1 million. And not only the traditional boats, but we also built some canoes, particularly to target our Kalinago brothers. Ladies and gentlemen, the post-disaster needs assessment done by the World Bank, supported by FOU, revealed that 70% of the fishing boats were destroyed. To rebuild more sustainable boats, we engaged or contracted an international naval architect to build and to train our local boat builders. And the minister always tell me, but the boat builders are internationally boat builders. Why we bring a naval guy from India? And I will give you a story on that. But the naval architect himself, his conclusion that our boat builders are world class. And I think that is significant for us. And so to broaden standards and to foster knowledge transfer at the local level. So we also provided the materials to build the fishing vessels at $2.1 million. And that was significant. And through that, we have conducted some assessment, and 15 boat builders were trained. Through that 15, 4 local contracts were valued at $150 each to 4 deserving boat builders. 5 boat builders. I forget our good friend from Sufuye. Honorable Dennis Charles is not there. Pemberton is not there, so I may be forgiven. So 5 boat builders, Mr. Aki from Portsmouth, Jonathan Joseph from Collier, Bertley Carrett from Layo, and we need to single out Bertley because Bertley is doing 19 boats, high-class boats. So again, that is very significant. Robert Dublin and Daniel Firmin. And these boats are not the small boats. What is significant is that the recommendation from our own minister is that we need more resilient boats. We need larger boats, and these boats sizes are 25 to 8 to 3.5 feet, 22 feet boat, 21 feet boat, 20 and 19 feet boat. So we have different sizes of boat, and that is saying that we are building more resilient and larger boats so fishermen can catch more fish. We're moving on to component A2, which is restoration of livestock systems. And again, our livestock subsector was severely impacted by Hurricane Maria. To date, we have spent $7.9 million. in doing what? In restoring our livestock structure. And the livestock structures we speak about would be poultry, pigs, and small ruminants. Small ruminants, we speak of, and pigs. Small ruminants, we speak of. Capsec, I sure you know what small ruminant is. Right, so we're talking about goats, we're talking about sheep, and I've been told that a rabbit is not a small ruminant. But if we say small stock, we can say rabbit as a component in it. We also assisted some beekeepers, and that is significant. So 171 livestock farmers have benefited, and in total, 81 structures have been completed, with the remaining 41 will be completed this year, and we have until May to complete these structures. But what is significant about these structures? It's not just building livestock structures, it's building it more resilient using the codes, the housing codes, and providing that resiliency to the farmers, and that is important to note. And we also supported the beekeepers. 15 beekeepers were supported. 120 small ruminants received wire. And why that is significant is that time and time during the Christmas time curving, we're having stray dogs, we're having dogs affecting our ruminants, killing our sheep and goat. And the farmers complain of that impacting the small ruminant sector. So what we did, we not only gave them fence, but we give them electric fencing. So what it will do, it will shock the dogs. It will not kill them, but it will stun them when they're attacking our ruminants. And it's more efficient and solar powered as well. Thank you, Minister. Component B, moving along, key productive infrastructure. What that means is not only our productive system was affected, and what I mean by that, our agriculture infrastructure was affected. The citrus certification, just Friday, Dr. Mark, we signed a $7.7 million to rehabilitate the citrus certification. So all that was impacted by Maria. And so even our offices, and so the project seek to restore some of the critical infrastructure. And through the project, the rehabilitation of the Northeast Agricultural Office, the completion of the Central Livestock Farm, and importantly, this rehabilitation is important due to the fact that the Central Livestock Farm objective is to provide high quality breeds to our farmers. And so quickly what we did is to rehabilitate the bull pen, our goat and sheep facility, and so we could give the farmers some high producing breeds. We also restore the Salisbury irrigation system, and we rehabilitated the ground floor of the DBMC building where the staff move. I will not go into the fisheries component. Honorable Defoe has touched on this, but just to say, the ministry worked with forestry division and also tourism. We realized that the linkages between agro-tourism and agriculture is important. And we are assisting the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Environment in rehabilitating the Waisi-Kubuli National Trail segment 4 and 11. You may ask me why these two segments. A survey was done, and these are the two segments that the Ministry of Tourism said that the tourists and visitors frequent And so these segments are critical. 4, we need restore some bridges. If we do not restore the bridges, it causes some difficulty in traversing the trails. 11 has some bridges as well. So we're going to focus on these 2 trails, 4 and 11, to do some work there. We also in full gear in procuring the lumber at a tune of almost $200,000 to procure the required lumber to rehabilitate the trail. Importantly for me, and that is a project, I don't want to call it my baby, but if it's my baby, my baby. but the citrus certification project. And this project is significant in that it forms part of the 5C, citrus, cocoa, coconut, and coffee, and cannabis. Minister, I don't know why our staff is reluctant to say cannabis, but medicinal cannabis is part of our 5Cs. And just Friday, as I indicated, we signed the contract for a $7.7 million facility. And importantly, this facility will provide disease-free, vigorous, true-to-type planting material. What I mean by true-to-type, if we say we give you a lime, we give you a lime. You know, there are farmers, Dr. Mac, that in the past, you give them a lime and they say, boy, it's all orange I get. So that facility will give you true-to-type, and it will be certified. What we mean by that, it will be certified disease-free. And we spoke of Tristis virus. We spoke of Wang Longbing. That is a scientific name, but most people know it as citrus greening. And so what it will do, it will give you a healthy plant. And in agriculture, if you start with a healthy plant, it will withstand disease much easier than you give a disease plant. So we're spending $7.7 million at that facility. It involves germplasm bank. It involves multiplication greenhouses, basically giving you greenhouses and all the amenities for a full citrus certification and a lab to test for your diseases. Capacity building is also important. We also provide some training for 40 extension officers and also for farmers, a tune of $0.2 million. And we also provided some IT equipment to enhance our data collection, and that will support our sensors when we're ready to do it. So it will really enhance our data and information system, because that is limited. We really need to do some work on that. So again, we also, under this SIC component, efforts are in high gear to rebuild the national abattoir to international standard, and I will repeat, to international standard, and to operate the national abattoir. So the signing of the abattoir took place earlier last year, I believe, April of last year, and that is progressing satisfactory. $6.6 million contract we signed to build the abattoir. It involves a chicken abattoir that has the capacity for what, Kevin? 1,000 birds an hour. So which means, PS landlord, you have to have 5,000 birds at one time. So we are calling people to invest in broiler. So we're talking about 1,000 birds in 1 hour. So the capacity of the abattoir is tremendous. So our strategy at the ministry is that we want to work with 20 commercial farmers. So each of these commercial farmers has to be producing 5,000 birds minimum. And so that is two things. And it is part of a wider strategy to reduce the importation of pork and the poultry. So we're not just building an abattoir for building an abattoir's sake. It is part of a wider strategy to reduce the import bill. Our import bill for poultry is past 20 million annually. And so if our farmers can get some of that money, it's critical. And so we are doing that. We've completed the works on the pig abattoir and 13% on the chicken abattoir. So it's the contract was to design and build, and we anticipate some work will be done on it. Importantly, you may hear, or if you have not heard, of the 25 by 25 initiative by CARICOM, and that is basically to reduce the imports bill by 25% by 25. I think we in 25, so I don't think we have achieved most of that. So again, we're going to support our farmers in greenhouse. So we intend to purchase 2 hydroponic systems, construction of 5 new greenhouses, restoring 50 existing greenhouses, and to support 60 beneficiaries. We've done some work with bananas. We imported 45,000 banana tissue culture plants, 30,000 bananas and 15,000 plantains, and 113 farmers will benefit, 138 farmers will benefit from that. We've also done some work on our landing sites, which the minister has spoken about, but just to say, the ministry is equally able to do some of the work. I want to acknowledge the work that our boat builders are doing. Tremendous work that the boat builders are doing. If you take a ride to Layo, you will see the construction of the boat. So our aim is to provide the environment where our farmers can. That is one component of the ministry strategy. Through our public support investment program, farmers are also supported, and so that is one component. We need to say that very loud and clear. That is one component of the overall support that the government is giving to our farmers. So again, thank you very much, and I'm here to entertain any questions.
Just sure. Let me acknowledge that the Honorable Dr. Irvin McIntyre, the Minister for Finance, and the Honorable Kozia Frederick, the Minister with Responsibility for Environment, has joined us. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. P.S. Thank you for all these details. It really highlights the extent of the work going on within the agriculture sector, and we endeavor to talk much more about that this year. We also have with us this morning the consultant engineer on the East Coast Road project, Mr. Kendall Johnson, and he will now provide us with an update on that particular project. Please welcome Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. I want to acknowledge the members of the head table. Dr. Mark, our distinguished Minister for Finance, Honorable Roy, Honorable Defoe, Minister of Housing, Mrs. Skerritt, Minister Alfred, Minister Joseph, and Honorable Frederick, CAPSEC, all the PSs, all the senior public servants, members of the media, and the listening public. It's my pleasure to be here to share some updates on the ministry's portfolio and to this project, the East Roads project. As I look at the program, I see a common theme between my project and that of the Ministry of Agriculture, and that is climate resilience. Because under my project, termed the pilot project for climate resilience and the disaster vulnerability reduction project, the government of Dominica procured a loan from the World Bank for the rehabilitation of the eastern roadworks. So on the 29th of May 2020, a contract in the sum of $127 million was awarded to contractor Sotradom for the civil works. And those works commenced in November of 2020. The civil works project comprised the rehabilitation of roadworks along two main segments. Lot 1, as we term it, that's from Boadap to Cassibruce, 10 kilometers, 6 miles, and Cassibruce to Hatton Garden via the Kalinago territory, that is 20 kilometers or 12 miles. The main objectives of the project were to improve resilience to disaster events and also implement adaptation measures through slope stabilization interventions, the rehabilitation of roads, bridges, retaining walls, the rehabilitation or reconstruction of drainage systems. And so the main work or the main aspects of the total works included excavation and slope stabilization works, the replacement of 5 bridges, the replacement of 168 culverts, varying sizes from 1.2 to 5 meters, that is 4 feet to 16 feet clear internal dimensions. Construction of 50 retaining walls, varying heights and lengths, curbs, slippers, and other rectangular drains over the complete length of the road, road pavement improvement, and the asphaltic concrete surfacing of the roads, and also other amenities to include road markings, signage, and bus stops. And so those works were targeted to end by Lot 1, May 2022, and Lot 2, November of 2022. However, considering the adverse impacts of weather-related events and additional works in keeping with the general project objectives, completion dates had to be revised to the 30th of June this year. Also, the works were also targeted for completion at significantly increased costs. You may be aware last year that Parliament approved a further $108 million to facilitate the construction of those additional works on the project. And therefore, the project ceiling was raised to $235 million. That's an 85% increase over the initial contract. I will just give you a brief update on the current scope. So Lot 1, excavation, road widening 100%, retaining walls complete, culverts are complete, and so the rough pavement, surfacing, and the bridges and the bus stops. The guardrails are expected to commence this week, as well as the installation of signage. Our assessment puts the overall completion at 95%. Similarly, for Lot 2, that is Cassibruce to Hatton Garden via Kalinago, excavation is at 100%. Retaining walls, we have 97%. Culverts, 98%. Road pavement, 95%. The drains are almost done, and asphalt concrete surfacing, 94%. We have done 2 of the 3 bridges. The only major one remaining is the Pegwa Bridge. 8 of the 15 bus stops have been done, and the guardrails and signage are at a similar stage to Lot 1. They should commence shortly. The overall completion for that lot is about 88%. We're looking at trying to complete Pegwa, which is the major outstanding civil works, by the end of June this year. You may have heard the term, various forums, variations when referring to that project. What is a variation? I mean, variations are really the changes in the scopes for a construction contract after the date that contract has been entered into. In our case, those changes were quite necessary. They have resulted in additional costs, true, and also time to complete the works, but they were necessary to maintain the integrity of the works. Some of the main scope changes included: number one, drainage culverts. So initially, the contract looked at the installation of 3-foot diameter culverts. However, government subsequently approved increasing the sizes from 3-foot diameter to 4-foot by 4-foot box culverts. And that change was necessary to improve the performance of those structures during high rainfall and also for easier maintenance. Number two, improving the pavement structure for significant lengths of road. So during the road widening process, quite a bit of poor soils not picked up during initial design were encountered, and so additional excavation had to be done to remove those poor soils and then replace it with proper, stronger soils or tarish. Retaining walls. Due to changing site conditions, longer and taller walls had to be built. Bear in mind that the consultancy for the design works were done in 2017-2018. A total of 50 walls had to be built versus 40 in the contract. Roadside drains. Significant lengths of additional drains had to be constructed simply to contain the runoff from high rainfall events. This is most evident on Lot 1. Lot 1, Boadab to Castle Bruce, we basically doubled the amount of drains that had to be installed. Subsurface moisture. To address the high levels of water along section of the road, again not picked up in the design process, some portions of the road pavement had to be replaced with French-type drains. So traditionally, we are accustomed with putting our tarish and surfacing it. In some cases, we had to replace the pavement with gravel wrapped in geotextile and surfacing it at quite a high cost. Upgrading of the potable water network. Significant work was undertaken by the WASCO in installing new pipelines from Siniku to Antrizal. That's 13 kilometers or 8 miles. Those works were funded by the WASCO, but that resulted in some time being lost for our roadworks project. Our project has faced some challenges during its implementation. Some of those included, from my experience, number one, insufficient sites for the disposal of excavated material and also construction debris. Two, adverse weather events during the construction. I think you can recall the devastating rainfall events of 5th of November 2022 and the 5th of November 2023. Those came at significant challenges to the project. And so construction had to be strengthened at areas damaged by those events. New drains, culverts, and retaining structures had to be built. The impact of the works on nearby communities. There are a number of cases where the designs did not adequately address public safety and protect private property. And so new retaining structures had to be built to protect property, had to put in additional drainage, and also to redirect drainage and culverts as protection measures. Additionally, several access roads to smaller hamlets and private residences had to be upgraded, and this process is still ongoing. Changing site conditions. A combination of new land developments and new access roads impacted the project negatively by discharging runoff into drains that were not designed to contain such additional flows. And so the designs had to be adjusted to meet the project overall objectives. The COVID epidemic of 2020 didn't help. That again negatively impacted the mobilization of supervision and other personnel. The consequential high cost of shipping and shipping delays played a significant role in those project delays as well. Notwithstanding all of the above, all is not lost. I think we are at the end of we are at a stage where the end of the project is in sight. I just ask for a little bit of more patience as these final stages. I'm sure we'll be all proud of that end product. I want to say thank you to the stakeholders along the project side, though, Castleberry and Kalinago, especially those communities. Your patience and understanding is well appreciated. I want to implore our road users to drive with due care and attention over the next few weeks as the road safety measures, guardrails, road markings, the reflective road studs, vertical signs are going to be installed. Let us observe the speed limits and respect the signs. This road is meant for the free, safe, and unencumbered use of the traveling public. While I strongly support small business and our local entrepreneurs, we are getting increasingly concerned with the proliferation of small roadside mechanics that are using the roads to store and park the vehicles. This is a hazard, and I think we have to speak to those persons at the soonest to have this concern addressed. Okay? As I end, though, I want to share some information regarding the trend in road construction costs. In the 1960s and 1970s, typically you would hear, okay, 1 mile of road, $1 million. Yes? In 2010, we completed the airport road lot 1, Kenville to Pocasset, at $4 million per mile. 2013, we completed lot 2, Pocasset to Hatton Garden, at $6.7 million per mile. This current East Road project is being done at $13 million per mile. The Loubier to Bagatelle or Geneva project is being done at $19.5 million per mile. Okay? The North Roads, Hatton Garden to Portsmouth via Marigot, is projected to be done at $17 million per mile. Okay? Per mile. Those costs are significant. Okay? That is the real situation in Dominica. All right, so I just want to put that information there to let you guys know that roadworks in Dominica are very expensive considering our terrain. As I end, I want to thank all of you for listening to me. You have been a great audience. I will answer as many questions as I can. Thank you very much.
Yeah, notes.
Yes.
All right, thank you to Mr. Johnson. He's the consultant engineer on the project. I think his presentation was very detailed. He covered every possible angle. How would I know? But it sounded that way. It sounded as if he covered every possible angle. So at this point, we have with us, I see at least the Dean of the Media, Curtis, is in the room. So we open up the floor for questions to the members of our head table. Yes, Curtis, please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. My first question is to Mr. Johnson. As it relates to the East Coast Road project that he just mentioned, he also mentioned, I think it struck many of us, in terms of the vast amount of resources which were needed to complete the road. Can you explain that scenario for us, please, in terms of the huge amount of money that was needed to complete the road?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So you're basically asking, the variation. I think my presentation included some level of detail. regarding to the scope changes and costs. So they were mainly related to the drainage culverts, increasing the size from 3 feet diameter to 4 feet square, improving the road pavement along the project. Okay. Also, in some cases, when we look at the design, assumptions were made at that time that the existing road had a certain thickness of the road pavement, but the actual implementation of the work showed that it was insufficient, and so we had to top it up. All of those comes at increased cost. Retaining walls, I said 50 were built versus 40 in the contract, and the 40 in the contract were for, say, a particular scope. So when we got to that site, a longer wall had to be built, a taller wall had to be built, merely to take into account the degradation of that site from between the elapsed time of doing your design and then constructing now. Erosion, landslides would have meant, increased infrastructure. Roadside drains. So when we look, say, at Lot 1, Lot 1 is positioned in an area that really contains the highest rainfall in the island, okay? And the design did not adequately address that. So we were on site during heavy rains, and you can see exactly where the waters are coming from. We couldn't allow that project to be built and have no drainage or insufficient drainage. Bearing in mind, we're talking about the PPCR, DVRP, And of course, a significant length of Lot 2 had to be upgraded for the water system. Okay, so again, those are some of the areas where a lot of the additional funds went.
Mr. Johnson, good morning. I'm just wanting to know with the amount of work and materials and stuff that has gone into the East Coast project, how would maintenance of the road now look following, like in a couple years and stuff, to ensure that it doesn't get back to the state that it was before the road project?
Well, every new infrastructure project, roadworks, drainage, would have to be maintained at some point. Okay, to increase the time between maintenance intervals, one of the measures on that project, for example, was to increase the culvert sizes. In many cases, the smaller culverts are relatively deep, so like 10 feet deep below the road. Ordinarily, they'll be 3, 4, 5 feet deep. But increasing the size would mean that you would need a longer time between maintenance. But notwithstanding that, I mean, in Dominica is road and soil on either side. We have to cut the grass. Okay, so the ministry has to position its budget to take care of those interventions in a timely basis. Okay? Yeah, thank you.
It's for the Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Roy. Now, Mr. Ray, obviously we've heard a lot of strategies in Dominica for the sector. All throughout last year, 2024, 2023, we've been hearing about strategies by the ministry to push the sector. Can you speak to the expansion, or can you say whether in fact there was an expansion of the sector in Dominica 2024, 2023?
We don't have current data so I can give you a precise and exact figure as to the growth rate in the sector. But I can just give you from Maria to now. Post-hurricane or pre-hurricane Maria, agriculture contributed about 16.5% to GDP. That's just above $290 million annually. When Maria struck, that went down in 2017, 2018 to about 12, 13, somewhere there, percent, because we would have lost market share, and as I said, we're ground zero. We had nothing to really trade. But because of government's quick response and intervention, and we pumped like about over $120 million within a year in the sector. In 2019, we saw growth increased to about 15%, and in 2020, 2021, we were even we had even surpassed the pre-Maria figures of 16.5%. So for the past 7 years, we have been seeing growth for every single year from Hurricane Maria to now as to the contribution of GDP by the agri-sector. And that didn't happen overnight. I'll reiterate, that was because of deliberate investment by the government and targeted investment by government in various sectors to include our tree crops, livestock, even aquaculture as well. But the ministry's target, as I said, is to increase that to 700 million by 2030. If we are to actually record everything that's been exported, I can confidently say we are over 500 million already. I'll give you one example. If you look at the carton boxes that we use to export, the standard weight is around 45 pounds, 50 for the maximum. Our traders, our exporters, they fill the boxes to 70, 80, and even 90 pounds in a particular carton box for export for various reasons. That's not everything to do because sometimes they got damages from the commodities that are above the box because of compression in the hatches of the vessels. Having said that, the record on Asicuda and on plant protection and quarantine unit will show the box weight was 45 pounds. So we have not been recording the actual. We've been recommending the recommended weight per box, but not the actual. Having said that, we are strengthening our recording system. I know Dexia has piloted some of that already. And even from last year, we've already started seeing results. Just for plantains being exported by Dexia in the month of June and July, we saw an increase in the export by double compared to what was exported for the entire year in 2023 and 2022. Notwithstanding that we had a real increase in the cultivation of plantains, but the actual recording assisted in giving us a little more figure that's accurate. So we're building our recording and data collection system to help us in doing that. But the investment that we're putting on the ground will allow us to see continued growth as we march to 2030. So, yeah, and as PS rightly said, the added value components, the agro-processed crops are not being commodities, are not being recorded as agricultural contribution. It's under light manufacturing. So if we are to factor the jams and cocoa sticks and the jellies and the juices, we would be even at 700 million already. But as I said, we're putting systems in place and to ensure we capture what we're recording while we expand on our local production.
While, Mr. Minister, you continue to say that we are heading towards 2030 to produce by about 700 million to GDP, can you tell us whether, in fact, there are many more farmers in the sector or farmers are leaving the sector? Do you have figures to suggest whether, in fact, there are more farmers in Dominica now, or we are seeing a decline in the number of farmers producing in Dominica? Because you're looking towards 700 million by 2030.
We saw a similar decline after Hurricane Maria for obvious reasons. Farmers would have migrated. Some of the farmers, got kind of discouraged because of they lost everything. But because of our targeted approach to commodities in various sectors, and because of some of the measures that we've put in place, for example, the procurement facility which we've installed at Dexia, where the farmers can get paid within 48 hours, we've seen farmers coming back, and we have seen new entrances over the past 18 months. I mean, there are farmers I speak to, farmers we've visited, they will totally abandon the farms. And since we've put that in place, it's sort of like a impetus and encouragement, and we've seen farmers increasing. Notwithstanding that we have a challenge, which is no secret, we have a labor issue. We wish we had more farm labor to really assist farmers. That's one of the major complaints that the commercial farmers are speaking about, but we put in a farm labor policy in place so we can regularize immigrant labor to support our farming on island. But I can confidently say that since we are putting in certain systems and targeting our approach to various commodities, we have seen great numbers in farmers, and interestingly, young persons as well. Young persons, yeah.
When you introduced the Young Farmers Program just about 2 years or a year and a half ago, would you have seen many young people enter in the sector?
Young farmers processing. We always had young farmers, but they were not being profiled and exposed. Most of our farmers on the West Coast are below 50. We have farmers in Bells, the biggest dashing farmer in Bells, that's a young farmer doing 13 acres of farmers. In the north where I'm from, one of our biggest farmers in the Capuchin area is a young farmer in Penville, in Vickers, and I can go going on. But seeing that we didn't have a structured program to really profile them, they were not known. But now we've invested in the youth and agricultural program where we have support targeting them and we try to tell the story. And of course, you have seen last year we had the first of the OECS Youth Symposium in Dominica where we exposed many of them. We were starting to know of them, but the young farmers are always there. And the ministry and government will continue to provide that support to them to have them further invest in agriculture.
Can I?
You have more questions? Somebody
I have
else?
a lot more, but I want to invite Mr. Defoe. I just want to talk a little about the Petite Savane to Dailies Link Road. Just want to get some information on. No, I'm not. I just wanted to get. Well, since we're talking agriculture, Mr. Defoe, can you just bring us up to date on this Petite Savane to Dailies Link Road at this time? Thank you.
That is not linked, but I think it is, you're spot on. It is very linked to agriculture. As you know, Dailies, Lapline, they are major agricultural areas. And you know, as PM always says, the road is the key to success of everything. You need road infrastructure. So of course it is important that they can get to the port of Roseau in a much quicker time to export their products and to take their product to market. So PS, I think the Ministry of Agriculture, we should put something in our budget so we can help with maintenance of this road. So we can help Mr. Lancelot Emil to maintain this road and declare it a farm road. And yes, so as you have seen, we had made significant effort to reestablish this link. I will tell you now that the link is established. We could sit in the list now and perhaps get a ride on a pickup this morning to get to town. But that being said, there remains improvements to be done. The road is being heavily used. I myself, sometimes on a weekly basis, just to look at the condition of the road. I have not said that to others. I take a drive. I did so week before last and the week before last, and I did so last week. I just drive the road. I like to see for myself and observe the condition. So I will be the first to say there remains some critical work to be done to enhance the mobility experience. So right now, mostly individuals with four-wheel drive vehicles, are able to access the road. And it is through, we have done, post the completion of the bridge, we did a major clearing activity from end to end, from Dailies to Petite Savane. The entire road network is cleared of debris and is cleared of bush or brush or trees, what we may call it, because it was not used for a long time. So this is done. But the actual surface itself requires work. There is ongoing efforts by the Ministry of Public Works to do so. I would not preempt what is being done, but there are contractors already they are in discussion with, also being engaged to it at the appropriate time. But the iteration of the road now, as and again it comes back to what Mr. Johnson was saying. Sometimes a 2-day event, a 1-day event can create a major change. So the experience that I had driving on the road the past several weeks, the experience I got last week was a bit different, and that came because of last week we had, I think, 2 days of significant rains. So that just event alone created some challenges on the road in terms of washing away some of the surface or some of the good work that was done even previously during the clearing. It is a joint engagement with the Ministry of Public Works, so I don't know if they had something to say, but I say this as parliamentary representative and also a key. I've always been known as a key advocate for the road, and as I said, I try to look at the conditions, and I will say at the moment it is being heavily used by motorists who have capacity for four-wheel drive, but the intention of the road is so that it can be used by all motorists. And as we speak, I can say there are ongoing initiatives to improve that road network.
Any more questions? You can take one.
One more. Mr. Ryan Anselm, the Permanent Secretary in Agriculture, you made a very important statement late last year, where you said that you were concerned that the Caribbean was importing too much agricultural produce. And you were calling on the ministries for the region of agriculture, ministries of agriculture in the region to look at that. Would you say that continues to be a concern for us in Dominica in terms of the importation of too much agricultural produce?
Yes, I still share the concern. When we speak about the 25 by 25 initiative from CARICOM, we import more than $4 billion worth of commodity in CARICOM. We're talking about fruits and vegetables that we can produce. But locally, we believe that vegetables, for example, we can produce the high-end vegetables that we import. The high-end vegetables I speak about: cabbage, lettuce, cauliflower, broccoli, and if you speak about fruits, the tropical fruits, I mean, why would we import melons into Dominica and cantaloupe? These are things that we're growing. So our program is to target farmers, and the minister spoke about a young program, and we're going to provide protected agriculture. We say protected agriculture, that's the term, but for our listening public, greenhouses and hydroponics, that we will produce these things. We're also getting some support from the Food and Agriculture Organization and other organizations to augment our greenhouse production. And what that will do, Curtis, is that we will produce these vegetables year-round, annually. Our current situation, we are doing open field vegetable production. And with the impact of climate change, weather variations, rain, either you get drought or rain. And so with protected agriculture, we're going to target these high-end vegetables and have a specific program, and we call it import substitution program for vegetables. And we're also doing some pilot projects with strawberries. And so it's important to, but one of the areas that the Prime Minister always mentioned is that for us to be successful, we have to consume local. And that is important. We can produce all the food that we can produce, but the consumption of this food is important as well. And the aim is that we provide high quality, nutritious vegetables and affordable as well. It's not availability, but it has to be affordable to the rural families. And so part of the whole strategic direction is for us to reduce the importation of these vegetables, but equally providing food and nutrition security to our people. Yeah.
Must say, very well done. It's the teacher in me. I like to have compliments. Ministers, thank you for your presentation. PS and Sam, Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming down from the East. I know that's where you spend most of your time daily. So thank you for being here. No, he's always on the road project. I know that. So thank you for coming. Yes, and those of you who joined us from the cabinet, we do appreciate your presence. CAPSEC, thank you for the role you played in putting all of this together. These will continue, and we will, of course, alert the media of our next press conference, which will take place very soon, focused on the all-important projects ongoing across the country. The members of the media who came, I really do appreciate your presence. Curtis, I know you told me you were very occupied, but you made it here, so special thank you. Thank you, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.